Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening. Public Health is tonight racing to find the close contacts of a COVID-positive traveller who escaped hotel quarantine in Hobart. It has been revealed the man spent time in the city's outer northern suburbs before he was caught, and authorities are now bracing for a potential outbreak in the community.
A manhunt lasting several hours for a COVID-positive traveller on the run after health officials received the news they never wanted to hear.
Public Health was advised that a person who should have been in hotel quarantine was no longer there.
The 31-year-old flew from New South Wales via Melbourne on JQ715, arriving in Hobart at 8:30 on Monday night. When his good-to-go pass was refused, he was taken to the travel lodge to undergo mandatory quarantine. But it was during a welfare check a short time later that authorities realised he was gone. Police tracking him down in Hobart's outer northern suburbs just before 5 o'clock yesterday afternoon, slapping him with 2 infringements worth more than $3,000.
He was transported back to the Royal Hobart Hospital for a test and then back to the quarantine facility. We'll look at all the circumstances surrounding this individual's movements after the public health response has concluded.
Public Health is now racing to track down all close and casual contacts of the positive case, including those on the flight and at the northern suburbs address.
We will identify them and assess them, and they will become contacts, either close or casual, and be quarantined.
While it's unclear how the traveller managed to evade hotel security, the Premier maintains the state's quarantine system is working, instead issuing a stern word of advice.
There has never been a stronger reason for Tasmanians to step up and get vaccinated.
As cases continue to climb in Victoria, from midnight tonight the entire state will be classified as high risk level 1, and travellers from 9 local government areas will be barred from entering Tasmania as the risk of a COVID outbreak reaching our shores increases day by day.
And our reporter Ainsley Kosh is outside the Fountainside Medi Hotel where the COVID-positive traveller is quarantining tonight. Good evening to you, Ainsley. Now, what are health authorities focusing on this evening?
Kim, the priority for health officials tonight is to identify as many close and casual contacts of this positive case as possible before the state government looks into further potential options for its quarantine facilities. However, the list of exposure sites has grown, with anyone visiting the Hobart Airport arrivals hall and baggage pickup between 8:54 and 10:07 p.m. and the male bathroom at the arrivals area on Monday the 11th of October to quarantine immediately and get a COVID test.
Depending on the results of the interviews that are carried out further today, we'll assess the need for any localised or pop-up testing if a localised risk is identified.
Now, more details about this man's movements and the number of people exposed to him over the last few days will be revealed in the coming hours, Kim.
Okay, thank you very much there, Ainsley Kosh. Tasmania is set to become the first state in Australia to legislate a target of net zero emissions by 2030. But the goal has left some confused, with that level of emissions already achieved for 6 of the past 7 years.
As Tasmanians ready themselves to strike for climate this week, a nation-leading announcement.
The Tasmanian Government will legislate a target of net zero emissions from 2030.
It's one of the most ambitious targets in the world, but one the state has already achieved for 6 of the last 7 years.
The government's announcement to legislate for something we have already achieved would be really confusing to some Tasmanians.
It is a recycling of a position that we reached 6 years ago.
The Climate Minister says action is now needed to keep the state in that position.
As our economy grows and as our population grows, and as we expect to see more frequent, intense bushfires, our emissions profile is going to go up.
The laws will include 5 yearly climate risk assessments and emissions reduction resilience plans for different sectors.
The Labor Party has asked questions of the government as to why they haven't adopted sectoral targets.
Activists calling for specific targets.
We know that the mining industry, the agriculture industry, the transport industry, the logging industry all need to have their emissions being cut.
The Minister arguing this is about Team Tasmania, saying different sectors will have different roles to play.
From a purist perspective, ideally you identify where your emissions are and you set targets for each one of those sectors to do it. In reality, you can only do what you can do.
And there are some industries in Tasmania that there just isn't the technology available at the moment to get to net zero.
The legislation is expected to be tabled in Parliament later this year. Meg Sides, 7 Tasmania News.
Opening addresses have been delivered in the trial of a West Australian woman accused of murdering her mother into a South Launceston home in 2019. The jury was told they need to consider other scenarios of how Veronica Kostorfen may have died, given her body wasn't discovered for almost a month.
A mother herself, Natalie Marr, is on trial accused of murdering her own mother. In opening remarks today, Crown Prosecutor John Ransom detailed how Miss Marr had moved in with Veronica Kostorfen in August 2019. By the following month, she was dead and her daughter was the accused killer. The Crown alleges Miss Kostorfen died in her Keene Street home on the evening of October 3, but her body wasn't discovered until October 29, after a long-time friend reported her missing to police. When officers arrived, Mr. Ransom says there was a strong and unpleasant smell coming from the house and there were flies on the inside of the windows, and that Miss Kostorfen's severely decomposed body was under a doona, on her head was a pillow. Further stating that the only reasonable hypothesis is the accused murdered her mother by smothering her. The prosecution told the jury Miss Marr withdrew thousands of dollars from her mother's account, as well as taking her mobile phone, tablet, computer and items of jewellery before flying to Western Australia less than 48 hours after the alleged killing. In his reply, defence lawyer Evan Hughes told the courtroom due to the deceased's heavily decomposed body, there is an absence of evidence which creates significant limitations to determining the cause of death, adding that the alternative scenarios that Miss Kostorfen may have had a medical condition, took her own life or was killed by an intruder remain open, live and real. He also told the jury that the last time Miss Marr saw her mother, she was very much alive. The trial continues tomorrow. Letitia Wallace, 7 Tasmania News.
Disturbing dashcam footage shows a near miss on the Bass Highway that some claim could have been fatal. According to truck drivers, it happens daily. They're joining police in calls for patience from road users.
One of Tasmania's most notorious roads, nearly claiming another life. Looking to overtake a truck, the driver of this red car jumps into the opposite lane. Oncoming traffic forced off the road. A quick-thinking truck driver saving the day.
Put it up to just show awareness of what my drivers deal with day in and day out.
The incident captured yesterday on the dash cam of a Walters contracting truck. Joseph Walters says the possibility of his drivers being involved in a crash weighs on him constantly.
50 tonne takes a lot of stopping power, and if they don't stop as quick as cars.
It's terrible driving behaviour, really. It's concerning.
Tasmania Police slamming the driver.
Keep some distance between you and other vehicles so that you can see that it is safe. And if you are unsure, stay in the lane.
This incident comes on the heels of a worrying stretch on our roads. Just months ago, a double fatal head-on crash happened on the same stretch of the road. An eerily similar incident also occurred just south of Campbelltown, a driver allegedly overtaking and colliding with a truck. There have been 29 deaths on our roads this year, and now some of their most frequent users, truck drivers, are calling on Tasmanians to take safety more seriously.
All the truck drivers in Tassie, they've got mothers, fathers, kids, wives, partners to go home to. They're no different to anyone else.
People need to understand that when they do these type of things, they don't even just put themselves at risk, but also other people on the roads.
Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
Former Independent Senate candidate Steve Mav is making a fresh tilt at politics, announcing he'll run for Pauline Hanson's One Nation party at the next federal election.
As an independent, it's always hard to get elected. By joining forces, Mav and Hanson together, I'm confident that we will win one of those 6 statewide Senate spots.
One Nation will lobby the next elected federal government to fund 4 health super clinics in the north and south of Tasmania if Steve Mav is successful in winning a Senate spot. Hobart will become home brew heaven when it hosts the Australian Amateur Brewing Championships next week. As hundreds of entries pour into Tasmania, there's an opportunity for locals to put their taste buds to the test.
Life isn't all beer and skittles, even for a brewer.
Making beer is pretty easy, but making really good beer consistently is really difficult.
Which is why Scott Overdorf raises a glass to the best homebrew in the land.
There's a lot of brewers who work in craft breweries that got their start brewing beer at home.
And on Friday week, 250 of the best home brews will be washed down in Hobart at the National Championships, the first time they've been held in Tasmania. Welcome news for Grindelwald's Alastair Stratting, who was once out of luck sending an entry interstate.
A bottle actually broke in the transit.
He won't have any problems this time when he enters a New England IPA and a smoked porter.
Yes, it's the Australian amateur brewing competitions, but, you know, a lot of the guys you can call pro brewers.
And if you fancy a froth, you're in luck. Organisers are calling all beer lovers to join the judging panel. The only prerequisites are a discerning palate and an appreciation of all fine ales.
There you go, sir.
Here's cheers.
Cheers.
And being able to stomach a full day's work.
Yeah, well, we call that the occupational hazard.
But the judging is a serious task. Although there's no prize money on the line, prestige is.
It's really up to the brewer's imagination. I suppose that's why home brewers really enjoy it, because it's very creative sort of pastime to get involved with.
To pull up a stool on the judging panel, contact the Hobart Brewers Facebook page. Tom Johnson, 7 Tasmania News.
The sound of revving motorcycles will fill the streets of Launceston this weekend to raise money for the LGH Children's Ward. The annual Thunder Ride will see a stream of bikes make the journey from Deloraine as part of Richardson's Harley-Davidson birthday celebrations.
We've been raising funds every year for Give Me 5 for Kids, but unfortunately that finished as a charity this year. So we still decided, due to the hospital kids ward losing their funding through that we'd still raise money for buying some hospital equipment for sick kids.
The motorcycle retailer is celebrating its 43rd birthday with a number of fundraisers, including a motorcycle raffle. Hobart seniors from diverse and cultural backgrounds were treated to a Bollywood dancing performance and a performance by the Tasmanian Symphony Orchestra at an event to recognise Seniors Week and Carers Week. Around 100 older Tasmanians were at the event run by the Migrant Resource Centre. Our retired servicemen are being encouraged to ask for help ahead of Veterans Health Week. This Saturday, the Launceston RSL will hold the first of 3 health and wellbeing expos scheduled around the state, bringing together support organisations such as Advocacy Tasmania, Legacy and Open Arms.
And what we're trying to do is to get everybody together, one, so that we can meet one another, the people behind the organisations, but 2, so that we can present a united front.
Events in Claremont and Wynyard are planned for the next 2 weekends. Deloraine students cleared the oval at lunchtime to make way for a noisy visitor. The high school used the Westpac rescue helicopter earlier this year when a student was injured while out on an excursion. Today, they were able to say thank you and learn more about the life-saving service.
Flying in on a different kind of mission. The crew members on board the chopper sharing with students what they do and the important role they play.
I learned a bit more about what they actually did, because at first I thought they just kind of flew around and checked, but now I've got a pretty good understanding of what they do.
It was a privilege to see how they do it all and learn new stuff, because I didn't really know what they did and how they did it, but it's very informative.
Grade 9 student Jet Chilcott had to be winched to safety earlier this year after he slipped and fell while on a school excursion to the Meander Falls.
Basically knocked myself out. So and then the teachers were good enough to help me out and all that. And then we had to call it. Pretty scary. It wasn't too bad though. The chopper people helped me out a lot.
Today he was given the chance to thank his rescuers.
It's very good, because the ambulance people can't get everywhere, and if up on top of a mountain like I was, then that's when you need them.
More than 400 missions were carried out last year. The service says it has seen a drop in rescues in recent months due to a lack of tourists.
We have been a little bit quieter. There's still obviously a lot of medical work that goes on with transfers between hospital and attending car crashes and missions like that.
And as summer approaches, we're being reminded preparation is key when planning bushwalks and trips in the wilderness.
Make sure you tell someone where you're going and have a look at the conditions and know where you're going, and always carry an EPIRB if you have an emergency.
Letitia Wallace, 7 Tasmania News.
Elise Perry, Meg Lanning and the stars of women's cricket are all in Tasmania for the launch of the WBBL season. The Hurricanes are determined to end their cellar-dweller status as they welcome back a player fresh from the international series against India. Players have packed more than just their lunch as they settle in for 3 weeks of games in Tasmania.
I think everyone's just looking forward to finally getting out on the ground and playing some cricket.
Although the Hurricanes' Taylor Velimic hasn't stopped since the series against India.
Our speed gun's been blown up by Velimic early.
Not quite 145 clicks in reality, but...
Oh, I'm taking it. No.
But she won't take anything but a better performance than last season.
We've definitely got a good squad on paper. It's just whether we can get out there and perform when it counts, I suppose.
Among the pickups for the Hurricanes, Molly Strano, who defected from Saturday's first-up opponent, the Melbourne Renegades.
It is a pretty big loss in losing Molly, and she's a leading wicket taker of the whole WBBL.
The Tasmanian side will enjoy home comforts for the first block of games, but they're bracing for hub life later on.
Everyone plays so much cricket against each other now that everyone knows each other, and yeah, I'm sure it won't take long for us to gel together, and we'll be on the road for 6 weeks, so we'll get to know each other pretty well, I think.
The big Tassie Bash begins tomorrow night when the Sixers face the Stars in Hobart. Elise Perry is eager to return to form.
Yes, my radar's been off a little bit, but I'm not going to sort of run away from it. Yeah, and there's been patches where it's been okay.
It'll be a great clash. The Sixers have certainly got some amazing players and some good depth, so hopefully we can put on a good show tomorrow night.
The game starts at 7:40, broadcast live on 7Mate. As the JackJumpers continue their tour of the state's north and northwest, they've taken part in a Welcome to Country with Aboriginal elder Clyde Mansell. The ceremony, a new experience for many in the group, assembled from across the globe.
It'll be a great learning experience for them and open their eyes, open their minds as to, I guess, the history of Australia.
Oh, it's about sharing. It's about sharing our culture with athletes that come into the state and become a part of the state. It's making them welcome. It's making them, learn a bit about Aboriginal culture.
The team also unveiled its home kit. The new Threads will have their match debut on December 3rd.
Good evening. 17 in Hobart today, 16 across Launceston and Devonport, Burnie 14. 22 was the state's top at Strawn, St Helens and Lowhead 15 and 18 at Bushy Park. On the close-up shows extensive low and high level cloud across the north and east of the state. Further out, a thick mid-level cloud band lies along the border of South Australia and New South Wales. Tomorrow, a cold front extends from King Island to eastern Victoria and then up to the New South Wales coast. East to northeasterly winds tomorrow 15 to 25 knots, reaching 30 knots about the north. Swells up to 3 metres in the west and south and below 1 metre in the north. A strong wind warning is current for southern waters from Tasman Island to Low Rocky Point, northern waters from Sandy Cape to St Helens Point, and for southwestern waters from Southeast Cape to Low Rocky Point. And a flood watch is current for north and northeast, Mersey, Huon, Derwent and southeast river catchments. Tomorrow's forecast now 17 and rain increasing about Hobart and New Norfolk, Cygnet 16. In the north, Launceston rain 16 about Devonport and Campbelltown. Burnie and Smithton tomorrow 17, reaching 21 at Strawn. St Helens and Fingal rain with possible heavy falls and 16 in Swansea. Tomorrow the UV level is high. Looking ahead to the 3-day forecast now, Friday rain heavier about the east during the morning, Saturday showers less frequent about the north, and Sunday showers about the west, south and central plateau, fine elsewhere. Capital cities 24 and mostly sunny in Perth tomorrow, showers easing in Adelaide and a shower or two in Darwin. And currently Hobart, mostly cloudy and 13, Launceston cloudy and Devonport cloudy and 13. That's all for weather tonight, Kim.
And that's all your news for now. I'll be back later with updates. Thanks for joining us this evening. Good night.